Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani Design PD-1722. This watch is available from Pagani Men's Watch Store on aliexpress.com for €107. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in the familiar black cardboard Pagani Design watch box. The watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel in the base, as one would expect. So although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use this basic style of watch box, bearing in mind it's a low tier price point piece at only €107. With the watch, one gets this basic owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams, and the instructions are in English. It details the operation of the movement used, which is the Hangzhou caliber 2C22. This is the plastic guarantee card that comes with the watch, and as usual the reverse isn't filled in. However, I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by the usual 12-month international guarantee. This is the plastic tag that comes with the watch. And lastly, one also gets this Pagani Design branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Pagani Design PD-1722. The watch is clearly an homage to the IWC Portugieser, so very similar proportions to the Portugieser. We have a 40.2mm case diameter, we have a 49.2mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13.3mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The alligator style leather strap tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to the buckle and tang, and as you can see, the buckle is signed to a high standard with Pagani Design's logo engraved. Nice angular bevels to the edges, and good heavy gauge of metal to the 316L grade stainless steel. I like the mirror polishing to the bevels, which contrasts with the brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks. So very well finished, very well executed buckle and tang. And on the strap we have two keepers, one's fixed and one slides as one would expect. So I'll show you the underside to the alligator style leather strap. As you can see, stitching is well finished. I like the use of a quick release stainless steel spring bar because one doesn't need a spring bar tool to remove the strap. And the quality of the stitching is very good. And as you can see, nice attention to detail because they've even embossed the Pagani Design emblem at the end of the strap. And I'll show you the other side. It also has the Pagani Design brand logo embossed, and the quality of the stitching on the buckle side is also done to a good standard. So it's a good quality strap. Now, it's a padded strap. As you can see, it tapers, it's thicker at the spring bar end, gradually tapering down in thickness down to the buckle and tang end. It does feel very stiff, and it is a thick strap, but I think with daily wear it's going to break in and become very comfortable to wear. I think it would have looked better had they used a smooth finish or grained finish leather strap rather than this alligator style, but however, this is subjective. Some collectors might like the navy blue tone with navy blue stitching because it does complement the blued hands on the subdials and also the main blued hands and blued applied indices and Arabic numerals. So with regards to the rest of the specification, we have a double dome sapphire crystal. Now, as always, the negative of the double dome sapphire crystal is the lack of AR coating. This is something that often collectors comment about, including myself. I would like to see Pagani Design enhance their pieces with clear anti-reflective coating, because as you can see, when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, there is a lot of glare and highly reflective nature from the lack of AR coating and also the blued hands and the blued applied Arabic numerals. So it really would benefit from AR coating. But having said that, the double dome sapphire crystal is very aesthetically pleasing, and it's got a nice bevel machined to the edge of it, which catches the light above the concave mirror polished bezel. The dial layout has good symmetry. It follows the IWC Portugieser, which this is an homage to, and I like the use of a power indicator at 3 o'clock. This is something I haven't seen used before by Pagani Design, and they deserve full credit for implementing a power reserve indicator because it is very practical and useful. The 9 o'clock subdial is the second subdial, and it works very well because the legibility of the blued hands on the subdials contrasts very well. The finishing to this dial is actually very good. I like the applied blued indices, and also like the rail track style chaptering around the circumference and the applied indices marking the hour markers. Now, with regards to text, I think that they should have deleted PT time, which doesn't have any meaning. And also they could have also deleted automatic and 20 bar / 200 meters. This isn't a dive piece, so one really doesn't need to state that it's 200 meter water resistance, but of course Pagani Design regard this as a selling point, and they think it's important to include that it's 200 meters rather than 50 or 100 respectively. But I think as this is a daily wear piece, not a dive piece, it really doesn't need to have 200 meters on the dial. But one detail I do like is the silver applied Pagani Design emblem at 12 and the Pagani Design logo in black. They've done a good job of applying the silver emblem, and I think they should introduce this across their collection. I think the silver applied emblem looks very good, and it would actually look good even without the Pagani Design text logo, just the emblem alone. So one other detail I like is if you look closely at the subdials, they have a 3D effect because they're slightly recessed below the main dial, and they have concentric circles which catch the light. When I tilt it at an oblique angle, you can see that the concentric circles refract the light and they actually look very aesthetically pleasing. The legibility of the power reserve indicator is very good because when it gets down to the critical stage in red, it shows that it's about to become exhausted. So it really is very easy to see where the power reserve is indicated. So with regards to the crown, it's a solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished domed cap, and signed with the Pagani Design emblem embossed. Very nicely finished. So let's test the crown execution. Silky smooth thread execution, very well machined, good interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is very strong specification. So in the first position, it's the manual wind position. Now, if you look closely at the power reserve indicator at the 3 o'clock position, you can see it works very well because as one manually winds it, one can see the power reserve indicator move, and it now builds up to its maximum 48-hour power reserve, which is very impressive. Now, it's not possible to overwind the Hangzhou Caliber 2C22 because it has a clutch release mechanism. Once the mainspring is manually wound to its maximum 48 hours, the clutch release mechanism releases the extra tension in the mainspring, so that prevents damage to the movement. But as you can see, the indicator now shows that I've manually wound it to its maximum 48 hours. Putting it out to the first click position is the quickset date complication. If you look closely at the date window at 6, you can see the quickset complication works as one would expect. Nice positive clicks. The clicks of the quickset date complication are audible. It's got a nice ticking sound when it clicks over to the next day of the month. Feels very similar to a Seiko NH35A, which you will be familiar with, and I like that positive quickset complication. One can feel each day of the month clicking over, so it works very well. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and that hacks the movements. If you look at the subdial at 9 o'clock, you can see the second hand has now stopped dead, so it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Hangzhou Caliber 2C22. Silky smooth, minimal resistance, one can't feel the friction of the gearing. It feels lighter than an NH35A, and I like it. So I think that the Hangzhou Caliber 2C22 has a nice pleasant feeling to it. No backplay, clockwise or anti-clockwise. It feels silky smooth. The gearing feels very well machined because one doesn't feel friction. So I like the feeling of it. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click. And if you look at the 9 o'clock subdial, you'll see the second hand begins to tick around the dial once again. So it's a good movement, pleasant to operate the hand winding, the hacking, and also setting the time and the quick set date complication. So let's test screwing the screw down crown back down. Immediate thread pickup. Credit where credit's due. This is something that Pagani Design get correct consistently across their collection. The screw down crown execution, this is very well machined. It feels silky smooth. The thread pickup is very good. The interface between the internal thread of the crown and the external thread of the crown tube are very good. So their screw down crowns are very good, and I'm often critical of their QC issues, such as lack of AR coating and also poor quality luminova. But their screw down crowns are consistently done very well, and 200 meters is strong specification for a daily wear piece. So with regards to the case back, very well executed screw down exhibition case back, stainless steel, very well finished. and mirror polished circumference, nice milled slots. The specification and reference number is engraved to a high standard. The centre section of the exhibition case back is glazed with mineral crystal, and it does a good job of displaying the movement used, which is the Hangzhou caliber 2C22, so I really like it. It's relatively low profile and it provides 200 metres of water resistance, which is very strong specification. Perfectly flat, so it's very comfortable against the wrist. And they've done a good job, credit where credit's due. It's a very well finished screw down exhibition case back. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, minor criticism is the alligator style leather strap is just a fraction too short for my 8-inch wrist. It needs to be an inch longer in order to engage the end of the strap in the two keepers, but however, this is a minor criticism because for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7.5 inch wrist, this leather strap will fit you with no difficulty whatsoever. So if you have a 6 to 7.5 inch wrist, the strap will fit. However, if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you may want a longer strap in order to be able to engage the end of the strap in the two keepers. But it's very comfortable despite being a padded and thick alligator style leather strap. The proportions are good, 20mm tapering down to the buckle and tang. It feels very flexible, and I think with some breaking in it's going to become very comfortable. So it does have wrist presence. It's 13.3mm. Tall slab size to the flanks. Now, I think they could have reduced the thickness down from 13.3 had they used a flat sapphire crystal rather than double dome sapphire crystal, and that would have reduced the thickness to below 13mm to say 12.5, and that would have improved the fit and the wearability, because as it is, it does feel top heavy even though it's well balanced by the 20mm alligator leather strap. The other thing to note is it's got a rather long lug to lug measurement for a 40mm head of the piece. 49.2 is a long lug to lug measurement for a 40mm. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug to lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. It has tall slab size to the flanks, and of course with a long 49.2 lug to lug measurement, this really is best suited to collectors with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches. So that's something to bear in mind. If you are a collector with a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you may find 13.3 is too tall and also 49.2 is too long. But however, if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you will find the proportions give good wrist presence, and it does feel quality. The 82 grams is a nice feeling of heft in terms of it feels like it's heavy and quality without being too top heavy on the leather strap. I think this would be enhanced if it had a thinner leather strap rather than this padded alligator style strap, because that would be lower profile and more flexible. But the comfort level is good due to the flat exhibition case back, and I also like the 82 grams. It's a good balance between heft, a feeling of quality, without feeling too heavy and too top heavy. So 40.2mm. Now on the AliExpress listing it's listed as 41, but I can confirm it's actually 40.2, and it does wear like a 40mm. So I think the proportions are good, but they could have slimmed it down to 12 or 12.5 by using a flat sapphire crystal. But however, the double dome sapphire crystal is aesthetically pleasing, and I like the way that the edge of it, the bevel on the edge, catches the light above the concave profile mirror polished bezel. Right, so no need to do a loom test because it uses blued hands rather than loomed hands. The hands are a nice leaf shape and they complement the blued applied Arabic numerals and also the blue indices which mark the hours on the rail track chaptering. So very aesthetically pleasing, and as a daily wear piece it doesn't need loom. It's not a dive watch, and I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it also works very well because this is an homage to the IWC Portugieser, which uses similar blued hands. So legibility is good on the subdials and also the main hands, because the blued hands and the blued applied Arabic numerals, the blued applied hour marker indices and also the Arabic numerals contrast very well with the dial. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. It uses the Hangzhou caliber 2C22, and this is the first time I've seen the caliber 2C22 used in a watch. It's not a popular movement, it's relatively new. So I'll give you the background to the caliber 2C22. It's based upon a Seiko movement, the caliber 7009A. So all Hangzhou caliber 2C series of movements are based on the Seiko 7009A. And the 7009A is a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. It was popular in Seiko 5s, and then the 7009A was succeeded by the 7S26. So it's now been discontinued. Seiko have upgraded in the Seiko 5s. They no longer use the 7S26, they use the 4R36. But the disadvantage of this design, the 2C series, which was originally based on the 7009A, is the 7009A didn't have hacking and it had a 40-hour power reserve. So Hangzhou have made some enhancements to the design, and this does have hacking, as I've demonstrated, which is an improvement. And they've also upgraded the power reserve from 40 hours to 48, which is very impressive. Now, in terms of finishing, it's a very well finished movement because we've got pelage finishing on the bridges, blued screws, and also they've skeletonized the rotor. It has the Pagani design emblem skeletonized, as you can see. So nice attention to detail. And really, the quality of the pelage finishing is very good. Bearing in mind, this is only €107. So it's a nicely decorated movement. And the exhibition case back does a good job of displaying it. And I like the quality control, the build quality and the finishing of Hangzhou movements, including this caliber 2C22. Hand winding and hacking and quick set date complication are all useful complications. So it's a good movement. Now, the negative of the caliber 2C22 is the accuracy. The accuracy is variable due to the long 48-hour power reserve. When it's fully wound to 48 hours, it is a reasonably accurate movement. But however, when the 48-hour power reserve becomes depleted, the accuracy can become variable. It can run out. So this one is running consistently at plus 12 seconds per day when it's fully wound for its 48 hours, which is acceptable. But however, that will become variable when the power reserve is depleted. So that's something to bear in mind. It's a reliable, good, solid workhorse movement. 48 hours is a good long power reserve, but the accuracy isn't particularly impressive. Plus 12 is acceptable, but it's nothing special. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're looking for very accurate movements, there are better options. I think it's an okay choice. I think the reliability is good and the power reserve is good. If you're looking for a daily wear piece to wear in rotation and you like 48 hours of power reserve, then that's a consideration. The hacking is a good enhancement over the Seiko 7009A, which it's based upon. So Hangzhou have done a good job of engineering the movements, although they've effectively copied the design of the original Seiko 7009A. So I like it. So I think it's a good movement. Right, so lastly I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch for my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price points. To evaluate this piece, one has to study the finishing of the piece throughout. The quality of the mirror polishing to the bezel is absolutely flawless, and the quality of the brush satin finishing to the flanks, which is longitudinal, is also absolutely flawless. Beautiful luster to the brush satin finishing to the flanks. No sharp edges, no burrs. The quality of the finishing to the exhibition case back is also done to a high standard. So no QC issues whatsoever. The screw down crown works very well, and the movement feels very good to operate. The hand winding, hacking, quick set date complication all work very well. So really the only negative to this piece is the lack of AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal. Other than that, it's a very well made watch, and it's certainly worth €107. So I'm going to say yes, it is excellent quality, and yes, it is excellent value at €107. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani design PD-1722. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.